Hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, as per your respective time zone. On behalf of Menta Evosys Managed Service System, would like to welcome you all to 22B Talent Management Advisory webinar session. This important session is to keep you fully synchronized with the new features and functionalities that are part of this quarter release, which Oracle provides to us. My name is Hardik Patel, and I'm an Options Manager here at Evosys Managed Services Department. Today, I'm your host for this session, and I'm glad to introduce my colleague Siddharth Das, who's part of our vast HCM team at Evosys. Today, we also have a panelist who'll be happy to answer any questions you may have through chat or question panel. Today, Siddharth will take us through all the talent management updates for the 22B quarter release. Today's session is planned for around 45 minutes, and we'll make sure that we also leave some time to answer any questions you may have. Before we move to today's agenda, let's have a quick look at the disclaimer, please. We would like to convey our approach towards Oracle updates in a very simpler method. We'll be taking you through vital analysis for the 22B updates done by our experts. We will also help you incorporating features and updates easily into your system. So we'll also sync you on any bugs or known issues if there are any. It's good to have an interactive session, so please do ask any questions you may have through chat or question panel, and our expert will be happy to answer them during the session and at the end of the session as well. This is to give you a glimpse on how we have crafted the structure of this session. So the first thing what you see is a list of new features coming into 22B, and then detailing on features, so you get brief understanding on what new features are all about. The next one is what are the business benefits and the important takeaway for you as a decision maker. There are 4 components where we have done in-depth analysis of features which we're going to present to you today. The first one is impact level analysis, which demonstrates the impact on the end user. If it's a low impact, then regression testing can be avoided or not. If it's a high impact, then we need to opt for regression testing. And the second one, which is all aware that there are some features which are by default auto-enabled by Oracle, and there are some which we need to opt for. And the third one highlights the nature of the feature. There would be certain configurations which may be required, and some can be used without any changes at all. And the last one, which is a quick win. This term which we use to simply convey to you that what is ready to use by investing a minimum amount of time and what requires significant amount of time and effort to make use of this feature. Before I hand it over to my colleague to begin with today's session, on a quick poll, we would like to know that which industry your organization belongs to so that we can craft more fruitful webinars going forward. Thank you so much for the input. And with this, I'll be immediately handing over to my colleague Siddharth, and so I'll be closing the poll now. Thank you for the input. And over to you, Siddharth. Stage is all yours. Unmute yourself and go ahead, please. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hardik. Very warm greetings for the day to this August Hall of Business Intellects, stakeholders, and Fusion enthusiasts. The year ahead has just got interesting with Oracle Fusion adding a few more novelties to its cap. As businesses dive into the second quarter, Oracle has released yet another set of new and improvised queue of features intending to address pain areas in talent management and development. On this note, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to guide you through what's in store for us in the 22B release of talent management. Our session today isn't limited only to the introduction of these features, but also intends to instill an understanding of them so that you can choose to align them in your organizational practices. This is in line with our goal of providing quality consulting to our clientele. Before we get engaged with the features ahead, let me give you a glance of what's in store. In the 22B release, Oracle has set aside 44 new features for talent management specifically. On a lighter note, I would give this to the ever increasing attrition rate, which is knocking on everyone's door at the moment. We have categorized these features for your easier understanding into two different sects called defaults, the features which are delivered to your environment right after you upgrade it to 22B. And on the other hand, we have the opt-in features, which are those features which depend on your sole business discretion in order to be used or not. Now, in every section, these features have been categorized into two different parts again. The green ones are the quick wins. Now, quick wins, as the name suggests, are ready-to-use features which asks for the least of your time and effort. Now, this translates into an instant delivery of the feature on your live environments and definitely ease of use. So, out of the 44 features, we in total have 32 features identified as default, and out of these 32, 21 are quick wins and 11 have been categorized as rest. On the opt-in side, it's completely balanced with 6 opt-ins being identified as quick wins and the remaining 6 as the rest options. So ladies and gentlemen, this would be the flow for today's webinar. We would first be starting with all those features which are delivered by default and require no configuration and are definitely quick wins. We'll be moving up ahead to the line of features which are again default but do require a degree of configuration and are quick wins. Next up, we would be having all those opt-in features, 6 to be specific, which have been identified as quick wins and depends on your business discretion before they could be used in your environment. And we would be ending it finally with the list of REST features. So without wasting any further time, let's start with the first deck of today's session. Coming up next, we would be having a list of features which are default in nature, which means that those features would be delivered to you right after your upgrade testing and no specific steps or configuration degrees are required to get them available for the end users. The first feature in line today is from the career development offering of talent management, that is simulate development goal approval rules. Now we can see the simulation result at the top of the same page in the approval rules section. With the advent of this feature, Oracle has now allowed us to test approval rules for development goals and its routing even. With the advent of these features, we can see results such as rule name, transaction ID, executed rules, approval request details, and as such. So we can now test approval rules and incrementally build the approval rules conditional logic while assessing the impact of the change without actual having to recreate it on our live environment. On the impact analysis side, the impact level for this feature is deemed on the lower end of the scale, and there is no need to enable this feature as promised, and also no configurations are required before it can be put to use, and it definitely confirms to be a quick win because of the business benefit it carries by helping us recreate transactions without having them tested on the live environment first. Up next, we have the additional filters to process mass actions for performance document features. Now, this is coming from the camp of performance management, and this was actually a very long awaited feature for most of us. With the help of this feature, we can specifically target a review population or demography. So now the newly introduced document status and current task filters help us isolate the required population and process mass action for them immediately. On the impact analysis side, the impact level of this feature is deemed on the lower end of the scale because of no need for regression testing. There is also no need to enable this feature and nor any configurations required. On the quick win side, it definitely qualifies to be a quick win as it helps optimize the entire review process by helping us target the exact population demography required. Next in queue, we have the print multiple performance documents by managers. Now, this is one shout out to all our managers, as this feature would definitely help them to print multiple performance documents to name 10 at a time and print them immediately for their action. On the impact analysis side, the impact level for this feature is deemed on the lower end of the scale, and it once again confirms to be a quick win because of the business benefit that it drives, as it helps optimize the entire process for performance document from the management's perspective. Coming up next, we have the manage eligibility for check-in templates. Now, this particular feature has optimized how we manage an employee's eligibility for check-in templates without running the eligibility batch process itself. With the advent of this feature, now we can check if an employee is eligible or not for a check-in template. And in case if they are ineligible, then the HR specialist can look at the reasons rather than reviewing the eligibility profile and referencing it against the employee data. So that is actually saving a lot of work for our dear HR specialists. On the impact analysis side, the impact level for this feature is again deemed on the lower end of the scale because of no need for regression testing. Also, this feature confirms to be a quick win because of the business benefit it drives by speeding up the entire process of how we manage an employee's eligibility check-ins template. Next up, we have the mass change performance document task due dates. Now, we use the process mass actions for performance documents task, and we can select the change task due dates after we select the performance document. With the advent of this feature, now we can enter a revised due date for any of the available tasks and can then submit the selected data for processing immediately. With the help of this feature, HR specialists can change the due date and can choose a reason for doing so. And also, organizations can add their own reasons to the default list by using a profile option. On the impact analysis side, it's once again deemed on the lower end of the scale because of no need for regression testing, and it once again qualifies to be a quick win as it helps optimize and save a lot of time of changing the task due date, which is already a pretty hectic task up. Next, we have the first in line from the learning cloud of Oracle, that is the load global access group relation data with HCM spreadsheet data loader. Now, this is another effort from Oracle to optimize and provide a better accessibility using the HCM spreadsheet data loader, wherein we are allowed to upload data directly to the global access group relations. On the impact analysis side, the impact level for this feature is deemed on the lower end of the scale, and there is no need to enable this feature, neither any configuration required before it can be set for end use. And it once again confirms to be a quick win, as it definitely enhances productivity by letting business stakeholders load global access group relation data without compromising on data security. Coming up next is another feature from the Learning Cloud, that is the withdrawn enrollments excluded from transcript. Now, with the advent of this feature, learners can directly withdraw their enrollments from the following navigation by going into the Meet app, then Learning, and then to current learning task from the Actions button. This would actually help keep the learner's transcript clean and to the point. On the impact analysis side, the impact level for this feature is once again deemed on the lower end of the scale because of no need for regression testing, and it confirms itself as a quick win by helping learners keep their transcripts clearer and with more accurate information about completed learning. The first one to come up in this series of release on reporting is the report on learning item rating details. Now, with the advent of this particular feature, we can report on how learners rated a particular learning item using the new learning item rating details attribute. Also, these attributes can be used for courses, specializations, and journeys, to name a few. On the impact analysis side, the impact level for this feature has been set on the lower end of the scale because of no need for regression testing, and it confirms to be a quick win as it allows track leads to see how learners are rating a particular learning item. Next in queue, we have the launch self-paced offerings with multiple activities enhancement. Now, basically, Oracle has helped us to launch self-paced app offering with a fewer clicks, and we can directly get into a self-paced offering when it has more than one activity. So, hence removing one extra click for learner and improving the overall experience. On the impact analysis side, the impact level is set on the lower end of the scale because of no need for regression testing here for the end user, and it once again confirms itself as a quick win, as it definitely improves learner satisfaction by letting them into self-paced offerings a lot more quicker. Coming up next is the enhanced SKILLSOFT translation support, yet another initiative from Oracle to optimize its third-party integration. With the advent of this feature now, Oracle has allowed us to resonate the linguistic preferences in Oracle Fusion Learning Environment and SKILLSOFT. So with this new configuration parameters, it allows us to decide which language is used to populate the text for all other Fusion language packs installed in the environment when the SKILLSOFT does not have the same course in a specific language. On the impact analysis side, the impact level is deemed on the lower end of the scale because of no need for regression testing, and it once again confirms to be a quick win because it definitely helps learning administrators serve a most vast and linguistically diverse demography. Next in line, we have the rebuild learning item text indexes background process removal. This feature allows us to search for courses to add to specializations, and relevant items appear immediately. So now the search is based on item title, and it does not now let us wait for the rebuild learning item text indexes process to run in the background. So basically, search no longer looks at learning item descriptions and goes by the title of it. On the impact analysis side, the impact level is deemed on the lower end of the scale with no need to enable this feature. No configurations required either, just as all the other features in this deck. And once again, this feature confirms to be a quick win, as it definitely improves productivity because learning administrators can now immediately see new learning items. Next up, we have the external providers configuration pages update feature. Basically, this is Oracle's initiative in an effort to provide a more consistent and user-responsive experience in the external provider configurations page. On the impact analysis side, the impact level for this feature is deemed on the lower end of the scale because of no need for regression testing, and it once again confirms to be a quick win as it strives to improve user experience by offering a more consistent and responsive. Coming up next, we have the manager actions in the performance document. So with the advent of this feature, managers can now bypass worker self-evaluation and return to the worker manager actions in the performance document itself. Earlier, managers had to undertake a totally different navigation to achieve the same result. But still, managers can access these actions in the performance spotlight or evaluate manager pages, whichever is applicable to your environment. On the impact analysis side, the impact level for this feature is set on the lower end of the scale, and it once again confirms to be a quick win as it allows easy access to actions to help managers bypass or reopen worker self-evaluation while reviewing performance documents. Coming up next, we have the add instructions to questions feature. Now, this is one of my favorite features wherein Oracle has laid more emphasis on providing additional context to the questions asked in a questionnaire. Now, on the impact analysis side, the impact level for this feature is deemed on the lower end because of no need for regression testing, and it once again confirms itself as a quick win as it allows respondents to better understand the context of a question, hence providing a more organic responses to the questionnaires. This is yet another one on from the reporting table, which is the report on learning content item, attempt and score configuration. So now Oracle has allowed us to report on content details, scoring details, and attempt settings using the few named column attributes such as the column name. It could be auto commit, it could be questionnaire ID, disable scoring, attempt reviews. So we can now report using these attributes specifically. On the impact analysis side, the impact level for this feature is deemed on the lower end of the scale, and it once again confirms to be a quick win as it definitely enhances reporting on the learning content item attribute altogether. So ladies and gentlemen, that was it on the list of features which have been delivered in the 22B pack as default and require no configuration. Next up, we would be going through those features which are still default, which means that they do not require any degree or enablement, but it still requires a degree of configuration before it can be put down to use by your end users. Up next, we have the first one, that is the configure development goal library list of values. So now with the advent of these features, administrators can now select the attributes that they want to use for searching and displaying in the search and display field section. So by default, the goal name and the goal category attributes are available to use for searching and displaying. But once the this feature is in place, the attributes can be selected by user and search for development goals in the search only field section. So you can see the attributes which have been introduced on your screen. It could be by business unit, it could be by department, job, family, or legal employer. On the impact analysis side, the impact level for this feature is once again deemed on the lower end of the scale, and there is no need to enable this feature, but it does require a degree of configuration before it can be used by the end user, and it once again confirms to be a quick win as it helps streamline searching of library goals for end users and actually makes it a lot easier for employees to create their own development goal journey. So ladies and gentlemen, this is actually the new attributes which have been included. If we can go through the search and display fields, this is where the attributes would be introduced. Up next, we have the add user defined talent ratings for talent profile and talent review. This is specifically for all our talent managers, how often we would require a set of talent rating which would suit an organization's individual need. But say no more. Oracle has heard it in this particular release, wherein administrators can now create additional talent ratings to supplement the standard delivered talent ratings in the person profile type setup page. And now we can make these talent ratings available on the talent ratings and review pages even. On the impact analysis side, the impact level for this feature is deemed on the lower end of the scale, and there is no need to enable this feature, but it does require a degree of configuration like all the other features in this present deck. And all these attributes make this feature a quick win definitely, as it helps user defined and client centric talent ratings to be present in the entire talent process. Coming up next, we have the actual effort set automatically for bypass complete enhancement. Now the learning administrator, when defining a course or specialization, can set the minimum and maximum expected effort out of the course from the learners. So now when we set the learning record to bypass complete, this is how we can calculate the actual effort. In case we set only a minimum or maximum expected effort, the value then is set as actual. And because of this feature, if we set both a minimum and a maximum expected effort, the maximum values automatically set as the actual effort. On the impact analysis side, the impact level for this feature is deemed on the lower end of the scale, and it once again confirms itself as a quick win as it improves productivity by leveraging expected efforts automatically to the set actual effort. Next in queue, we have the maximum number of participants to provide feedback in performance documents. Now, feedbacks are a really important stage when reviewing performance for an employee. With the advent of this feature, HR specialists can configure the maximum number of participants that can provide feedback for an employee's performance document. So now employees and managers can't select more participants than the maximum configured in the entire process. Also, HR specialists can now enforce the total minimum number of participants required. So this would make sure that there is no excessive feedback request being sent, and it encourages a more thoughtful dialogue between the reviewing population and the reviewer. On the impact analysis side, the impact level for this feature is deemed on the lower end of the scale, and it once again confirms to be a quick win. Coming up next, we have the configure performance goal library list of values. So with the advent of this feature, administrators can configure the attributes by which users can search for performance goals to add them to the goal library. So we can also specify the attributes which are displayed while searching and the attributes which can be used only for searching. On the impact analysis side, the impact level for this feature is deemed on the lower end of the scale with a need to enable there and a degree of configuration required. This particular feature once again confirms itself as a quick win. Next up in line, we have the autocomplete rules for goal management business objects. Now with the advent of this feature, we can use the delivered rules of business objects such as goals and goal relation with goal plan to validate performance goals created or updated by our employees. On the impact analysis side, the impact level for this feature is deemed on the lower end of the scale with a degree of configuration required, and it once again confirms itself as a quick win because it helps us use the delivered rules for the goals and goal relation with goal plan business objects and ensure that the performance goals of our employees are accurate and consistent. So with it, we come to an end with all the list of features which have been delivered by default and would be available for use right after you upgrade your instances to 22B. Coming up next, we would be discussing all those features which are based solely on your business discretion in order if they suit your convenience or not. And the specialty for these coming features are that they have been identified as quick wins based on our knowledge of business requirements. The first one in line, we have the custom talent ratings in Talent Review. With the advent of this feature, facilitators can now create or edit a talent review meeting based on a template that has custom ratings. And these custom ratings can also be previewed in the review content section. On the impact analysis side, the impact level for this feature is deemed on the lower end of the scale because of no need for regression testing. And there is a need to enable this feature, and also it requires a degree of configuration before it could be used by the end user. But all these attributes definitely make it as a quick win, as it helps the talent review process by using ratings that are appropriate and peculiar to your own organizational needs. Next up, we have the enhanced management of talent review tasks. With this feature, managers can now view and manage tasks of people reporting to them while they are preparing the review content for the talent review meeting. With this, they do not have to navigate to the talent review meetings overview page to view and manage tasks. All they need to do is to select the view task action on the prepare review content page to manage tasks. On the impact analysis side, the impact level for this feature is set on the lower end of the scale because of no need for regression testing again. But there is a need to enable this feature, and it requires a degree of configuration before it can be up and running for your environments. Given the business benefit, it definitely qualifies itself as a quick win, as it helps leverage the enhanced task management option and allows us to efficiently manage tasks assigned to members of the review population. Next up the queue, we have the location search criteria enhancement in talent review. How often would learning administrators would want to location filter the population selection in the talent review meeting? So this is what we have in this 22B release, wherein we can use the location filter in the population selection for a talent review meeting. Now we would only be seeing location identified as employee locations on the responsive location details page. On the impact analysis side, the impact level for this feature is deemed on the lower end of the scale with a need to enable this feature, and it does not require any configuration before it could be put to end use. But the business benefit definitely makes it as a quick win, as it allows us to filter employees by their base location and select the relevant employees to address the review population. Up next, we have the performance goal FYI notifications. So this feature is basically an enhancement to the performance goal management, and The few notifications included are: a notification would be sent when or if workers update or create their own performance goal to managers, or notifications are sent to managers, workers, when manager deletes or updates that particular employee's performance goal. On the impact analysis side, the impact level is deemed on the lower end of the scale because no need for regression testing in here, and there is a need to enable this notification set. Also, it does not require any configuration before it could be used to put live for the end user. And for the business benefit, it is definitely a quick win as it helps keeping a consistent dialogue between the employee and the management during the entire performance review process. Next in line, we have the launching offerings from specializations enhancement. Now, this is yet another enhancement wherein the option is enabled for available offerings section to only display offerings in the same language as the logged in user. So learners launching from a specialization enrollment can benefit from fewer clicks to launch the offering if only one of them is visible. To get this feature in use, please note that at least one offering needs to be present for the learner. On the impact analysis side, the impact level for this feature is deemed on the lower end of the scale. There is a need to enable this feature and it does not require any configuration before it could be put to use by the end user. And it once again confirms itself as a quick win as it definitely improves learner satisfaction because they get more content and that too in a preferred language. Next up, we have the withdrawn and completion date time zone. So now with the advent of this feature, we can now see the withdrawn completed and bypass completed dates under the navigation of going into me, then learning pages in our preferred time zone. On the impact analysis side, the impact level for this feature is deemed on the lower end of the scale, and there is a need to enable this feature, but it requires no configuration before the time zones are visible on the learning pages, and it once again confirms itself as a quick win because it improves learner satisfaction once again while showing the timestamps in the preferred time zone format. So we now come to the final leg of today's session of 22B in talent management features. Now we would be going through the list of REST features. These features are not delivered to your environment by default and would only be serviceable based on your individual business requirement. The first one in line, we have the disposal of talent review data from HCM crowd. So now as an administrator, we can include the talent review data as part of the person information removal policy configuration. And with the following step, we can help remove the talent review data from the HCM cloud. On the impact analysis side, the impact level for this feature is deemed on the lower end of the scale because of no need for regression testing. There is also no need to enable this feature, but it does require a degree of configuration before it could be put to good use, and it does not qualify itself for a quick win. Next up, we have the HCM data loader enhancement for talent review. Now with the advent of this feature, administrators can now use the HCM data loader to remove terminated workers from the talent review meetings in which they were added as facilitators or participants priorly. We've also given an highlight of how the DAT file for the particular action should look like. So this the particular file on display uses source keys to identify the facilitator and participant to delete. On the impact analysis side, the impact level for this feature is deemed on the lower end of the scale, and there's no need to enable this feature, neither any configuration required, and it does not qualify itself for a quick win as it does not intend to solve a greater business challenge. Next up, we have the data disposal enhancement for succession management. Now, with the advent of this feature, administrators can remove terminated workers who were a part of the succession plan or were succession plan owners from our organization succession plan using the remove person information process. So after the succession plan's owner person information removal process completes, the terminated workers are removed from all succession plans altogether. On the impact analysis side, the impact level for this feature is deemed on the lower end of the scale, and there is no need to enable this feature but it definitely requires a degree of configuration before it could be put to good use in your succession plan, and it once again does not qualify for a quick win. Next, we have the HCM data loader enhancement for succession management. Now, with this feature, administrators can use HCM data loader to directly remove terminated workers from the succession plan and talent pool in which they were added as owners. So on your screen right now, we have the illustrative DAT files which could be used to remove terminated plan owner from a succession plan and talent pool. On the impact analysis side, the impact level for this feature is deemed on the lower end of the scale with no need to enable this feature and no configurations in place. It once again does not qualify to be a quick win. Next up, we have the new attributes in workforce performance subject areas. So this is yet another initiative to improve how we report on the workforce performance subject areas with the inclusion of the attributes to report on the reasons associated with changes to performance document status. So with the advent of this feature, we would be able to answer the following business questions, such as what was the reason for the performance document being completed before all tasks were completed, or the reason why performance document was cancelled, or the reason behind changing the due date for a task in a performance document. On the impact analysis side, the impact level for this feature is deemed on the lower end of the scale because of no need for regression testing. Also, there is no need to enable this feature, neither any configuration required, and it does improve reportability of the performance subject area only, so hence it does not qualify for a quick win. These are the list of attributes which have been available under the feature new attributes and workforce performance subject areas. Coming up next, we have the reporting on profile content item attachments. So now this is yet another reporting feature coming up with the newly added attribute to the workforce profiles. Under the person profile real-time subject area, we can now report using attributes such as attachment, attachment file types, creation dates, etc. On the impact analysis side, the impact level is once again deemed on the lower end of the scale with no need to enable this feature and no configurations required either. It once again does not confirm itself as a quick win, as it only enhances the reportability of attachments associated in the profile content items. Next up, we have the configurable default cover art. So with the advent of this feature, we can now define the default cover art displayed for a specific type of learning items such as course. The default cover art is displayed for all learning items of that type without their own cover art defined. So this is actually an initiative from Oracle to provide a more holistic and uniform experience to learners. On the impact analysis side, the impact level for this feature is deemed on the lower end of the scale with a need to enable this feature, and it requires no configuration before it could be put to end use, and once again does not qualify to be a quick win. Next in queue, we have the data loader support for performance document section ratings and comments. Now with the advent of this feature, it would help us to save time by mass loading section ratings and comments to employees' performance documents using HCM spreadsheet data loader. So, or we can even use HCM data loader for the same initiatives. Either of the tool using, we can enter legacy ratings and comments or provide preliminary ratings without opening each performance document individually. So on the impact analysis side, this feature falls on the lower end of the impact scale, and it requires no enablement before it could be put to use, and it also does not require any configuration, and it once again falls in the no quick win section because performance appraisal or performance document is something which requires dialogue and should have individual effort before the ratings could be uploaded. This mass uploading can actually solve a bulk challenge. Coming up next, we have the custom talent ratings in talent review. Now, this particular feature actually enhances the talent review process by using custom ratings that we create in the talent profile. So, for example, we can now create a rating to assess the innovative thinking of an employee, suiting a business need and the job role. On the impact analysis side, the impact level for this feature is deemed on the lower end of the scale, and there is a need to enable this feature and certain configurational steps required before it could be up and running for your end user. Also, it does not qualify to be a quick win. Next in queue, we have the autocomplete rules for goal management business objects. Now with this feature, we can use the delivered rules of goals and goal relation with goal plan to validate the performance goals created or updated by our employees. So the delivered rules for goal business object, to name a few, are default completion percentage based on goal status, validate performance goal dates, and such. On the impact analysis side, the impact level for this feature is deemed on the higher end of the scale, and this is the only feature with a high impact assessment, and it would require regression testing before being deployed on your live environments. There is also a need to enable this feature and a degree of configuration involved before it could be put to good use in your live environments, and once again does not qualify to be a quick win like the other rest. Next up, we have the succession organization chart enhancement. Now, this particular feature enhances succession planning by helping view indirect reportees who have succession plans on the succession organization chart. So for the same, we can go to all reports with plans tab to view this information. Under this tab, HR specialists can see both direct and indirect reports of the manager whose succession organization chart they are viewing and have succession plans created for them. On the impact analysis side, the impact level for this feature is deemed on the lower end of the scale, and there is no need to enable this feature, neither any configuration in place. And it does not actually solve a major business challenge with succession planning, hence it does not require to be a quick win again. Next up, we have the observation checklist configuration details page. Now with this feature, we can report on the configuration details of observation checklist tasks using the following set of attributes, such as disable self-assessment checklist, disable reassignment of the observer checklist, observer type, route using, and so on. On the impact analysis side, the impact level for this feature is deemed on the lower end of the scale with no need to enable this feature, no configurations required either. It once again does not qualify to be a quick win. Next up, we have the related enrollment details feature. Now, as the part of reassigning learning to completed learners feature, when a learner is reassigned or exempted from a new assignment, the application relates the existing completion to the new assignment for reference. So this basically shows on the learner's enrollment details page as a related enrollment. On the impact analysis side, the impact level is deemed on the lower end of the scale, and there is no need to enable this feature, neither any configuration required. It does improve accountability by letting us track why an assignment has been exempted or expired. It does not still qualify for a quick win. Now, this is yet another third-party integration effort by Oracle Learning Cloud with the advent of Microsoft Teams Virtual Classroom Provider. With this feature, we can now create and update Microsoft Teams web conferencing events directly from Oracle Learning Cloud, and the events are part of a visual instructor-led training in the Learning Cloud. On the impact analysis side, the impact level for this feature is deemed on the lower end of the scale, and there is a need to enable this feature, and it does not require any configurational measure to be in place. And it once again does not qualify to be a quick win, but it definitely helps us leverage Microsoft Teams as a virtual classroom provider directly into Oracle Learning Cloud. Up next, we have the BIZLIBRARY learning content provider integration. Just like the previous one, this is yet another third-party integration effort from Oracle Learning Cloud, where now we can integrate with BIZLIBRARY learning content the same way we already had with LinkedIn and SKILLSOFT in our previous releases. On the impact analysis side, the impact level for this feature is once again on the lower end of the scale, with a need to enable and no configuration required, and it once again does not qualify to be a quick win, as it only serves a specific set of customers who do use this library learning content. Next up, we have a very similar feature but with a different third-party integrator, that is OpenSesame learning content provider integration feature. With this, we can now integrate with OpenSesame learning content via Oracle Learning Cloud the same way we could with LinkedIn and Skillsoft content. On the impact analysis side, the impact level is deemed on the lower end of the scale, and there is a need to enable this feature, and once again does not qualify to be a quick win. Now, this is one final attempt on third-party integration in this particular release with Intuition Learning Content Provider integration. We can now integrate Oracle Learning Cloud with Intuition Learning Content the same way we can with LinkedIn and Skillsoft after the previous releases of 21D. On the impact analysis side, the impact level for this feature is deemed on the lower end of the scale, and there is again a need to enable this feature, and once again does not qualify to be a quick win as it only serves a specific set of customers using intuition learning. There's one special mention of feature from the 22B series which has been removed, which is the recommendation event alert removal. So now we could send recommendation alerts using only the recommendation resources. This feature was introduced after the 21D maintenance pack, but from the advent of 22B, this feature would no longer be available, and this helps us remove resource alerts to notify learners from recommendations. On the impact analysis side, once again, this feature is on the lower end of the impact analysis scale, which means if it is inculcated into your system, it would not require a lot of regression testing. There's no need to enable this feature, neither any configuration required, which means that it would be removed immediately after you upgrade your environment to 22B, and it does not qualify to be a quick win again. So that would be it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that was an insightful one for you. The floor would be open for questions now.
Thank you, Siddharth, for the wonderful insights. Let me have a quick look if you have any questions in the chat panel or question panel. No, we do not. So before we quickly conclude for today's session, we'd like to quickly note down the area of interest so that we can craft more fruitful webinars going forward. So your area of interest, you can let us know with the poll, whether it's technology, innovation, managed services, value-based analytics, and cloud transformation. Before you all leave us, we'd like to inform you that we'll be sending you the presentation, PDF presentation, along with we'll be sending a HTML pager wherein you'll find a link. Wherein using that link, you'll be able to download the PDF file of the presentation along with the test scripts and also the recording of the session with the hyperlink to the YouTube. So that'll be on your way in a couple of days' time. And that is about it. And with this poll, I mean, we would like to have one more feedback from you, asking that how we did in today's session, which will help us improving going forward. So I'll be closing the poll, and on the last poll, if you can let us know on the scale of 1 to 5, 5 means we did really good today, and if you think any improvements are needed, you can let us know. So I'd like to quickly repeat that we'll be sending you test scripts along with the presentation and the recording of this session, so you can pass it to your colleagues as well. And if you have any questions at a later stage, you can reach out to the dedicated project manager or the consultant or a team leader. If you need a one-to-one session, we'll be happy to arrange that for you as well. And if you're not an Evosys customer, you can write to us on business@evosysglobal.com. I'm repeating again, it's business@evosysglobal.com. Again, thank you, everyone. Thank you very much for your inputs and feedback, and we'll make sure to improve it based on your suggestions, if there is any. And before you leave us, we'd like to quickly show you that the upcoming sessions, what we have tonight coming up, inventory and order management of supply chain. If you have your colleagues in your company would like to pass on the message, they can be part of it. Benefits and compensation coming in tomorrow, which is and along with the PPM dedicated session, project portfolio management. So that and will be end of the webinar by tomorrow. Thank you so much all again for your presence today. Appreciate your time. Thank you once again. Thank you all.